Digital Free Thought Radio Hour on WOZO Radio, 103.9 LPFM here in Knoxville, Tennessee. We're recording this on Sunday morning, September 25th, 2022, or Rapture Day. And Wombat can't be with us today, but stepping up and stepping in, we have Doubtfire, welcome, and the John Richards, welcome.
Hello.
And any latecomers are, of course, welcome to come on in. Digital Free Thought Radio Hour is a talk radio show about atheism, free thought, rational thought, humanism, and the sciences. And conversely, we'll also talk about religion, religious faiths, gods, holy books, and superstition. And if you get the feeling that you're the only non-believer in your town, well, I'm willing to wager you are not. In Knoxville, here in the middle of the Bible Belt, we have a group of over 1,000 of us. The Atheist Society of Knoxville, or ASK, and we'll tell you more about them after the mid-show break. What's on our topic list today there, John?
Well, there's lots going on. It's Rapture Day, first of all.
Yeah, we didn't make it, apparently.
No. I've been waiting like this to be sucked up, you know.
You got a hole in your roof ready?
No. In fact, I'm suspecting that I would be going down anyway. So it would be, I'd need a hole, I think, for my rapture or de-rapture, whatever it would be called. So there's that. And there's also amazing things happening in Iran. You know, there was, I'll give you some background here. There was a woman, they have this amazing thing in Iran, the morality police, the moral police. Can you believe that?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, they go around collecting people who are misbehaving because of their dress. So, of course, this is mostly women, because men can wear what they like.
Pretty much.
Yeah. But the women have to wear a headscarf. And if you don't wear it properly, you know, if there's some of your hair showing, they can arrest you. And this happened to a poor woman who was actually taken into the police van and then severely beaten, and during which her head hit part of the vehicle and she was rushed to hospital, but she died of some sort of brain hemorrhage. And so everything broke loose following that. All the cities in Iran have had riots out of sympathy for this poor woman who was badly treated. And things like hijab burnings have taken place. Women have cut their hair in public. They've had chanting. So the scenes are amazing.
Yeah, and I understand that the police have actually used live ammunition on some of the crowds.
30 people have been shot. Yes. And this is all over wearing a scarf. And it's because that's a sort of blasphemy in their religion. The weird thing is, of course, blasphemy as we know it is an offense against God. But as they know it, it's an offense against God's messenger, Muhammad. I don't know what you think about that. It's just weird to me.
Oh, you're muted, I think.
We can see your lips move, Larry.
Yeah, Muhammad's been dead for how long?
1,300 years.
Yeah, and we're offending him. They're offending him.
Yeah.
I guess I do every day, being an atheist.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hope something comes of this. Iran, back when I was young, back in the 60s, when I was a teenager, was a pretty progressive state.
It was.
Women had a lot of rights. They could pretty much dress any way they wanted to. But then what was it? I can't remember the movement.
The mullahs came in.
Yeah, the mullahs came in. The religious leaders shamed people into coming back into the religion or being more devout about it, and then it turned the entire society around. They're now the regressive, anti-science culture that we see nowadays.
It's terrible.
Yeah, and that can happen here. That's the message to send to the rest of the world.
It could. Yep. The situation in Iran, though, is such that it's possible to imagine these riots could develop into an overthrow of the government, because they can't control it at the moment. There's so many cities where the public are chanting "death to the dictator."
Yeah.
And so they're trying to clamp down on it, but it's a big job. And if they can't do it, what are we going to see? A regime change?
And it seems like a lot of people in general will say, well, that's just a small extreme group of Muslims. That's not the majority or whatever. But we need the majority then to step up and voice their opposition so that they can fight that instead of just being the quiet, silent majority. If that's what they are.
Yeah. And if you think of the evangelical movement which has joined the Republican Party here in America nowadays, I can see this kind of resurgence of religion coming, and we need to fight it every step of the way, or we'll be in the same situation as they are.
Yeah,
yes, even many Republicans, conservatives, if there are many, I don't know, in the Republican Party, but if they could also voice their opposition, that would do a lot to break that thing down too as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's no good being a silent majority. Mm-hmm. The key word is silent. You just don't get what you want, do you?
Yeah.
Interestingly, a little item of news from the States concerns the Jews, who are coming out in favor of the Democrats because Roe versus Wade being
overthrown,
repealed. Yeah, that's annoyed them because in the Jewish religion, it's okay to have an abortion, especially if there's some medical reason.
Right.
So they feel that they are being oppressed by the Christian majority who have taken away their rights. So vote Democrat is what they're saying.
Yeah, well, the Jewish scriptures seem to, if you're an Orthodox Jew, even if you're an Orthodox Jew, it seems like abortion isn't frowned upon by their God Yahweh, because he even had a potion set up to give a woman abortion if she was an unfaithful wife. So, that's kind of contradictory to the Christian position.
Yeah.
And not to mention all the babies he's killed, like in Egypt, the firstborn for no damn reason.
Yes.
Could he not just make Pharaoh let his people go, or just let his people go in spite of Pharaoh? There's a meme on the internet that I really enjoy sharing, and it has Moses standing in front of Pharaoh, and Pharaoh's asking him, says, "Why does your God need my permission to let his people go?" And it hits right to the point. And of course, that's one of 1,000 different small things in the Bible that point to it being not the word of an omniscient being. But you have to read it with a skeptical mind to get these points. And John, I believe you've got a new church leader over there, don't you? And leader of the Anglican Church.
We do, yes. Yeah. With the very sad death of Queen Elizabeth II, her son, King Charles III, inherits the title of Defender of the Faith. And there's another title, Supreme Leader of the Anglican Church, or something like that. Mm-hmm. And of course, not only is this just dropped in his lap, he wasn't elected or selected in any way whatsoever other than by accident of birth, but also he's got some weird views according to historic
My name is Philip,
remarks that he's made.
Somebody is talking on top of you. I don't know who it is.
Not me. Nothing here.
It's the rapture.
Yeah.
We had some kind of bleed over from another channel or something. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, well, he has expressed in the past that he wants to be defender of all the faiths. Now, you can imagine how well that's going to go down with the Archbishop of Canterbury.
Yeah. Yeah, and if he's actually the leader of the church there, isn't he the archbishop's boss, as it were? And just how
Technically,
religious is the religious leader of the English church?
well, they don't traditionally. The monarch doesn't have any power, not even over the church. They divest the power to their bishops. They let them get on with it. Although they do talk to the archbishop, exchanging views, and they give a speech at the synod meetings and so on. But the actual running of the church is done by the churchmen.
Sure.
So it's only it's a titular head.
Yeah.
It's
Honorary title.
Exactly. Yeah. But nevertheless, he does have influence. They can have a word in the ear. And the point is that recent polls have shown that 51 in one poll, 53% in another of the population of the UK is now non-believing. So as president of Atheism UK, some of your viewers may know that's my position, we're going to demand that the king should represent the majority of the population, and rather than be defender of the faith, meaning the Anglican Christian faith, he should be the defender of the faithless, because there's more of us.
Yeah. And which poll did this show up on?
I can't remember. We have several polls going on over here, like you do. I'd have to check.
Yeah, but
that
are
out.
they pretty consistent in that the non-believers are now in majority?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, and they're properly done. You know, they've got a technique for doing it, just the same as Pew has over where you are.
Yeah. Well, that is good news.
It's interesting, isn't it, to see how things might pan out.
Mm-hmm. And you've had some.
Sounds like such a nice notion, like, oh, we can all just get along now.
Yeah, kumbaya.
Yeah, kumbaya. And,
until they start talking about where they're going to spend the afterlife.
Right. And all kinds of doctrinal issues. It seemed like we've been down this road, 2,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and ever since.
Yeah, all these councils to get it straight, and they finally get it straight. Now they're going right back to we're all
Another interesting aspect of this is technically, although Charles has he's acceded to the throne, because that happens automatically the minute the former monarch dies, he hasn't really technically acceded to the position of leader of the church, because that doesn't really happen until the coronation, when he is anointed by holy oil.
Wow.
By the archbishop.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a bit of a sort of interregnum going on at the moment, and nobody really knows what holy oil consists of. But I don't know whether you have it over there, but we have a brand of lubricating oil. I should say that other brands are available before we advertise. But we have a brand of lubricating oil that's called 3-in-1.
Yeah, we have that here.
So that's probably what holy oil is.
Yeah, it's probably that with a few magic words said over it.
Yes.
A magic spell, as it were.
That's right.
Which is witchcraft. I've always held that prayer is witchcraft, because you're asking and a being from another dimension, another world, using ritual words and posturing to come and do your bidding in this world, which is the heart of witchcraft. Of course, they don't realize it.
Well, like one of the, the Jewish people, one of the big criticisms about accepting Jesus as the Messiah is that he wasn't anointed with oil and poured on his head. Because the Torah would tell you, like in Exodus 29, you shall take the anointing and oil and pour it on his head to anoint him as high priest. So that doesn't meet the qualification technically to be a Messiah or a anointed high priest, deliverer of his people, and blah, 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 blah.
Well, that's why there are still Jews.
Right.
They don't accept him as the Messiah. I mean, they're still looking for one, theoretically.
Except there's one category, and there's one subsect of Jews that call themselves the Messianic Jews.
Mhm.
So,
I don't know much about them.
On your prayer subject,
Yeah.
Larry, interestingly, our politicians over here, when disasters happen, when somebody dies, like our Queen did recently, instead of saying our thoughts and prayers are with their family and the nation as a whole, our politicians, apart from one, has started saying our thoughts and condolences, or just our thoughts are with. We've dropped the prayers.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. Because what would a prayer be, for someone that has died? Theoretically, they're already in their after place, whichever one that's going to be. God's not going to change his mind. Why send prayers? Or maybe just try to wish the people having less suffering for the death of their loved one. I don't know.
It's weird, isn't it?
It just doesn't make much sense.
Whenever anybody says they'll pray for me, which they do sometimes if I'm ill or something, I always say back to them, I'll weave a spell for you.
Yeah, or I'll sacrifice a chicken for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Anyway, you had some religious strife over there in England and in your extended areas about cricket. I understand religious strife over cricket.
This is difficult to believe for a number of reasons. One is, of course, cricket is such a genteel game. It's all about nice clapping, and cups of tea and stoppages for meals and things. But not in the subcontinent, the droopy bit that hangs down underneath Asia, that contains India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and the island off the bottom that's Sri Lanka. In that area, cricket is the game. That's what they play. It's far more popular than any other sport, and it's national. They invest great expectations in their national teams.
Yeah, kind of like baseball in Japan, huh?
Yeah, exactly. The same sort of passion. And so what happened recently, there was a cricket match. It wasn't in the subcontinent because since about, I think, 2003, they haven't been able to play against each other on their home ground because there was an incident involving a shooting up of a bus containing one of the teams.
Really? Wow.
So since then, all their matches have been played in the Middle East, in places like Dubai and Bahrain and places like that. And at the beginning of this month, Pakistan played India in the United Emirates, and India won. Okay, you might think that's the end of it, but no, because over here, the homeland of the former empire, we've got cities that contain they're multi-ethnic. So one Midland city called Leicester has got communities containing Hindus and communities containing Muslims.
And they're right next to each other?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And the youths started throwing stones at each other in the streets, and it snowballed, and all sorts of police got involved. And this has been going on now for, 4 or 5 days. And it's unprecedented because for decades they were living side by side in an English city, not bothered. But what's happened to bring this about is Mahendra what's his name? Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister of India. He's stoked up resentment from between his supporters, who are Hindus, and Muslims. He's done this thing that's taking the world by storm at the moment. You know, he's a populist politician. And the way you get to be a populist politician is by spreading hatred for everybody who's not on your side. I mean,
nationalism, like Trump is doing.
Exactly. Yeah, you've had a good case of it. Yeah. So he's got the Hindu youths of India all riled up about anybody who's not part of their team, their side, and they're called the Hindutva. So that they're pretty much lightly armed now, looking around for opportunities to beat up the opposition. And it's spread to our country just because, you know, we've got groups of them here.
Yeah. Hate to have to separate them like children, put a wall up between them just to keep them from fighting, because they can't see how much more we're alike than how we are different.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're getting to the point where we probably need to take a break.
Sure.
And station identification. This is WOZO Radio 103.9 LP FM here in Knoxville, Tennessee. Stay tuned for the second half of Digital Free Thought Radio Hour, and we'll be right back after this short break. Okay. Anybody need to get any tea or anything?
We're going to have to edit this because if I stop broadcasting, if I stop recording, I'm going to have to send you a new link.
Yeah, we can just go on if you want.
Yeah. Okay.
Coming back in. 3, 2. Welcome back to the second half of the Digital Free Thought Radio Hour. I'm Doubter 5, and we're on WOZO Radio 103.9 LP FM here in Knoxville, Tennessee. Let's talk just a moment about the Atheist Society of Knoxville. ASK was founded in 2002. We're in our 20th year and have over 1,000 members, and we have weekly in-person meetings every Tuesday night in Knoxville's Old City at Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria. Look for us inside at the high top tables, or if it's pretty weather, outside on the deck. We also have Tuesday evening Zoom meetings if you would like to join us. Email us at askanatheist@knoxvilleatheist.org or let'schatsE@gmail.com. You'll also find ASK on Facebook, meetup.com, or you can go to the website at knoxvilleatheist.org. By the way, if you don't live in Knoxville, you should still go to Meetup and do a search for an atheist group in your town. Don't find one? Start one.
Start one.
That's right. Yeah. And where do we want to pick up?
Well, I've got some more stuff about America if you're interested.
Why, sure. We're egotistical enough to want to hear about us. Go ahead.
I expect you've heard of Doug Mastriano. He's a Pennsylvania state senator.
Well, okay.
But he wants to become a governor of Pennsylvania.
Mastriano. Okay, it's ringing a bell now.
Yeah. He's on the Republican ticket. But he's had a history of fusing religion and politics, giving voice to Christian nationalism, and deriding the notion of separation of church and state.
All right.
I don't know what you think about that.
Well, maybe we need to talk a minute about what's wrong with uniting church and state. Any thoughts?
Well,
I know your head swims, doesn't it?
Yeah. Every time that experiment has been tried, the outcome has been disaster, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Because the religious people are control freaks. They want us to all do what they say is the right thing, the virtues.
And once you give them the power to do that through government and law and enforcement, you have things like the Inquisitions and holy wars,
indeed,
and pogroms.
Yeah. Interestingly, the only place where that hasn't happened is here in the UK, where about 500 years ago we gave the church well, we didn't give it because it was all under the control of the monarch at that time. There was no democratic government. So the monarch decided he wanted to be the Pope of our local church, the Church of England. And so since then, we've had an established church. Our state and our church have been linked. But 500 years later, what's happened is the church has sort of withered away. Everybody, because it hasn't had to struggle to get power, everybody disregards it. You go to a church now, there's 5 old people there in the pews waiting to die. Yeah. And if you want to, you can buy an empty church. There's plenty of them for sale here, because having achieved recognition, they've sat on their laurels and haven't been involved.
Well, what's funny is all throughout Europe, most countries have state religions that have withered and died.
Yeah.
I guess because of what you're talking about, they haven't had to struggle.
Yeah.
Here in America, religion is rampant even today. Yeah. And there may be some churches for sale, but not where I live. We're opening new churches all the time down here.
Yeah.
It's in this. I'm in the South, of course. If those listening to us on podcasts or wherever, we're in Knoxville, Tennessee, and you can't drive a mile without seeing 5 churches. It's terrible. And what's even worse, you're talking about joining church and state. Well, there's another option that some churches are wanting to do, and that's have their own police force inside the church to enforce their laws and their rules. Can you imagine a church police force? Do a Google search on that when you get a minute, and I think you'll find that it's down in Texas where they want this, and the local communities are supporting them, which is, they don't realize what they're doing. But I mean, it just boggles the mind what they would do with a church force. Scott, you haven't weighed in on this church-state union. Do you have any words you want to throw at us for that?
Well, I was just going to say that, the thing about the Constitution is it's really clear about the separation of church and state. Yeah. But, and furthermore, it seems like with the, these religious people that want to put the two together, I don't understand their reasoning behind it, to be quite honest with you, like say prayer in school, because the big criticism is, well, you shouldn't be taking God out of school. Well, by definition, their God is omnipresent. So how can you take a God out of school? And as far as prayer, you can pray within your own mind. God's not, limited to, you have to say it out loud and in a group. Right. And I think even in Christianity, Jesus recommended that people pray in private rather than in public, like the hypocrites. So it just seems very contradictory.
Yeah. And there's no law against students praying. They do it all the time in school. They gather around the flag. They join hands in lunch periods. They, whenever they want to, in the hallway. There's no prevention of prayer in school. It's just, you can't have government authority behind the telling students to pray and picking the religion that they pray to, which is what some of these coaches are doing right now that are getting flack for doing it. And of course, the Christian community is up in arms about, they're taking prayer out of school. No, they haven't. They've stopped government authority from choosing religion and making your kids pray to them if they're not part of that religion, period. And of course, shunning comes into play too, because they say, well, it doesn't matter if your kid's not a Christian, he doesn't have to pray. Right. He's part of a football team, and the coach brings everybody in for prayer, and he stays to the side. You don't think he's going to be benched for the rest of the season, or what is it? Shunned from the team out in social events and things. That shouldn't happen. But
school shouldn't be about politics and religion. It should just be about education.
So Doug Mastriano, he's a retired Army colonel, and he made headlines a little while ago because he appealed to the Almighty to overturn the 2020 election results.
Oh, yeah. How'd that go? Yeah, well, maybe in his head it did.
Not too well.
If Trump can, in his head, declassify documents, maybe Mastriano can, in his head, can overturn the 2022 election or 2020 election.
Yeah, exactly.
Just getting weirder and stranger and more mental. You get my drift.
Yeah. Unsurprisingly, he's not very tolerant towards faiths other than his own. So, for example, he said that Islam is not compatible with the Christian Judeo ideas of the US Constitution. Well, how many ways can you be wrong?
Well, Christianity is not compliant and compatible with the U.S. Constitution.
Exactly. Yes.
You know, I mean, I've always said that people can be good, worthy, moral people in inverse proportion to how closely they follow their own religious doctrines. Because it's not about equality or democracy. It's about dictatorship and obedience.
Yeah.
And that's not what the Constitution is about. That's not what the idea of America is about, or democracy at all.
Absolutely. So I mentioned earlier about American Jews now supporting and planning to vote for Democratic candidates. In fact, the figure is 70% in a poll of Jewish voters that want to do that, and only 24% want to vote for Republicans. But the reason they've become vocal is because of this abortion issue.
Sure.
And apparently, the Wednesday before last, rabbis and active Jewish members of Congress stood outside the Capitol and blew the shofar, the ram's horn, to proclaim their support for abortion rights. Because Judaism teaches that abortion is permitted and even required when the life of the pregnant person is at risk.
Well, I certainly agree with them, and I think it's good teaching. What's surprising is 25% of them are still against it, or against voting Democrat. But what do you do? People are conservative, and especially and generally, religious people are more conservative because they want to stick to the past. They want to stick to the old ways because that's when when these rules were laid down, and they want to stay with them.
Well, it's interesting you should say that, because this guy, Mastriano, has been linked to a conservative Mennonite church. And, you can't get much more into the old ways.
No.
Yeah, they're very traditional.
Yeah.
And like I was saying before, I think a lot of, just like with the fundamentalist Muslims, the argument's always made, well, yeah, but these are the extremes. These are just a small pocket of extremists, and you're trying to paint an entire religion with a broad brush. Well, where are the voices against, where's the opposition against these fundamentalists that are extreme? Same thing with the conservatives. There's a lot of conservative folks that aren't religious at all, like say libertarians or people of that stripe.
Right.
That would say, constitutionalists, church and state should be separate, this and that. There should be more voice from within these particular pockets. That way it's going to be more effective. See, it's one thing to have the opposition come in, like the Democrats or what have you. That's going to happen anyways, and that's only going to make them dig their heels in even more, and then it just becomes just that's exactly what they want, divide and conquer. Yeah. But if people from within these groups, then it would be much more effective,
Change from within. Yeah. Interestingly, I attended an event a couple of weeks ago that was staged by our National Secular Society in Birmingham. And the purpose of it was for Muslims to come and tell us how Islam could fit with British way of life. So these were moderate Muslims, and they came along and they told us that they were against Sharia law, but they liked the original law of the Quranic law. That was okay. So, and I was there with my President of Atheism UK hat on. I spoke very briefly that I told them that they were all barking up the wrong tree because there's no evidence for any God. So what are they talking about? But their intention, it became obvious. What they're trying to do is put lipstick on a pig.
Right.
You know, they've
They're
got this.
Trying to get the nose of the camel under the tent.
Yeah.
And once they do, it will all change.
Yeah.
From what I understand with the Muslim faith is you have the Quran and then you have the Hadiths. And in the Hadiths is where you base all the Sharia laws and stuff like that. So that's probably why they said we like the Quran laws, but we're against Sharia law. They're probably saying we don't follow the Hadiths, which the Hadiths are not supposed to be inspired by Allah, but are supposed to be good enough, I think is the word I heard. They're good enough to be followed. So there's a little leniency there, but I don't know. The Quran seems pretty clear, though, about killing the infidels, though. That's the only thing.
Yes, indeed.
Well, not only that, but it's like we were saying earlier, religions are dictatorships. It's all about omniscient power or omnipotence and obedience. And let's say that you had a good religion, and they got power, and everything was rosy. Well, the religious leaders can morph over time, change, be replaced, and then they still have the power. But then they start reading the hadiths. They start picking some hadiths. They start living under that because it's their rule. They're dictatorship now, and just because you got a benevolent dictator one time doesn't mean his follower, his successor, won't be a real jerk, a real painful one. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, it's sort of like sets the precedent. It's like with Donald Trump here in America, you start getting a character like that, then all of a sudden the Democrats and every party and every president wannabe learns, oh, that's how it's supposed to be done to be successful. So now we have to do that thing. So then even the Democrats, people like that, will follow suit because they realize, hey, if we want to stay in power, we better learn, we better, read the notes, catch the memo last time. This is what happened. So we're going to have to play that game.
Yeah. Instead of realizing that's the very thing they need to stand up against.
Right.
And strengthfully or strongly.
Absolutely. So you've got another candidate, a Michigan candidate who wants to be elected to the U.S. House of Representatives, and he's backed by former President Donald Trump, but he doesn't want women to have the vote. There's a lot of your constitution that's under threat at the moment.
Oh yeah, for sure. We're coming to that realization.
Yeah, he's argued that America has suffered since women's suffrage.
Yeah, we were talking about good people being silent. Who was it said that all it takes for evil to triumph is for good people to be quiet or silent?
Yeah.
I can't remember it, but that's true. We need to raise our voice. We need to be heard. Even if you don't get into politics, there's another saying, meme going around says, even if you don't get into politics, it doesn't matter. Eventually politics will come to you. In other words, like in Germany, they will knock on your door, come and take you and arrest you if you don't speak up for your rights and protect them.
Dietrich Bonhoeffer again strikes his record in this conversation. Well, this guy, this Michigan candidate, John Gibbs, apparently when he was a student at Stanford, he founded a Society for the Critique of Feminism, and it argued that, listen to this, women do not possess the characteristics necessary to govern because men are smarter and are more likely to think logically about broad and abstract ideas without relying upon emotional reasoning. Can you imagine how well
so
that
he's never heard of the female prime ministers or other presidents all through Europe? It boggles the mind that he's just in denial about all of that.
You know, so there's characteristics with being successful, whether that's in the workplace or in politics or in any really in sports or anything else. It's a mentality of being competitive and being sort of hard and strong and everything like that. Women can possess these things, and women do possess a lot of these qualities. Yeah. And that's why you see them running Fortune 500 companies and doing things now.
Sure.
The argument can be made, well, women are nurturers by nature in a general sense, and they're sort of really good at, say, in the medical profession. The medical profession has, and I work for a hospital. Most of your, doctors and, nurses and medical staff are women because this kind of falls into their strong point. But on the other hand, there are office managers who aren't really good at nursing, but these women are really good leaders and really good, and they know how to communicate with their nurses and doctors and things of this nature. And I just think it's just very short-sighted to say only men can be this particular quality. And as far as intelligence and logic, that's just bullcrap. I mean, that's just bullcrap. I've met so many women that are logical and very, and at the same time, very feminine, very nurturing and things of that nature. So that guy is just, I think he's a troll.
Right. And if you've ever read a book like Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, one of the things that brought to light in my mind when I read it was that women are the communicators. Yes. I mean, for every word a man will issue in his life, a woman will issue 3. The type of thing teachers. Where they are reporters. I mean, they report, things that happen to them, men internalize. And don't express themselves. So it's just nonsense. If
just like how the Bible says a woman should not be a teacher, but should remain silent. It's like,
and have no authority over men. Yeah.
Right. What a waste. I mean, women are such great teachers. That's what they do. Yeah. It's like in early times when women would be with their children, they were the primary teacher of the children. So they're like the most wonderful to be in that position. I don't get it.
Yeah. And you know what the most scary words that a wife can say to her husband are?
No.
We got to talk.
Yeah. Oh, no. That's so true.
We need to talk. Yeah. Well, we're getting to the top of the hour. We need to start thinking about winding down.
Right.
What were you going to say there, John?
Well, I just wanted to say that this guy, this crazy misogynist to extreme guy, wants to repeal the 19th Amendment, which is, the one that gave women the vote. Finally, you've got in your country the daughter of Bishop Desmond Tutu, who was big in South Africa. He's dead now. But she has become an Anglican priest in the Diocese of Washington. And she'd been asked to officiate at the funeral of her late godfather in Shropshire, England, but she was banned from doing that by the Church of England because she's married to a woman.
Oh, wow.
I love it when the churches, I love it when they fall apart within their own denomination. Yes.
Yeah, they're their own worst enemy in many ways.
Yeah.
Anyway, where can we find your media, your content there, John?
Well, I'm on Free Thought Channel, which is steadily growing, and it does several weekly shows. Something happens on Free Thought Channel every day, and I like taking down Frank Turek, one of your keen evangelistic YouTubers from the US.
Excellent.
And that's where you can find me, Free Thought channel on YouTube.
Okay, real good. Scott?
Yep, I'm just doing my Electro Live channel. So more music going on, different things, different interviews with
That on YouTube?
legendary pioneers and people of the electro music and hip hop and things of that nature.
On YouTube?
On YouTube, yes. It's called Electro Live.
Okay, very good.
And do you know anything about atheism, Larry?
Me?
I've got no idea. What is it?
Well, I wrote a book. Thanks for the segue. It's called Atheism. What's it all about? It is available on Amazon, but you can find my online content at digitalfreethought.com. Be sure to click on the blog button for radio show archives, atheist songs, and many articles on the subject, which I took right out of my book. So you can read a lot of that on digitalfreethought.com. You can find me on YouTube by searching for Doubter5. If you have any questions for the show, send them to us at askanatheist@knoxvilleatheist.org or let'schatsE@gmail.com, and we'll answer them on future shows. By the way, if you're a member of the clergy but haven't come to see that what you believe is just not justified and you're doubting, or have lost your faith altogether but are stuck behind the pulpit because of the consequences of coming out of the atheist closet, there is help for you. Go search for theclergyproject.org. Actually, you can just go to the link, clergyproject.org, and find help there. Remember, everybody is going to somebody else's hell. The time to worry about it is when they prove that heavens and hells and souls are real. Until then, don't sweat it. Enjoy your life, and we'll see you next Wednesday here on WOZO Radio. Say bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.